Greetings, path seekers. Today we're going to take a look at one of my very favorite trucks, my budget Gladiator build that I have affectionately named Scout. We'll get the camera in close and see all of the parts and all of the homemade modifications that I did to him that not only make it, I think, look better and look more the part of what I'm going for, but to make it perform much better on the rocks and certain other situations that I like to get this truck stuck in. So part of the reason I love this truck, I love the colors, I love what it is, I love the way it is outfitted. It's like me if I were a truck. All right, it's my favorite kind of truck, or my favorite kind of vehicle. It's one of my favorite vehicle colors. If you know me, I'm always carrying too many first aid kits and survival kits and survival knives and things in my pockets. I've always got way too much stuff. And does it weigh you down? Yeah, a lot of people remove this to try and help the performance. I tried removing the tent from the top when we first got them. I had two of them because I have my brother's rig and we're both stock. I put them on a piece of wood, flip it up until they tip over, and it was a toss-up whether the one with or without the tent would flip first. So it really didn't seem to make a difference. And then I'm always wearing hiking boots. I feel like hiking boots are the human version of these awesome Mickey Thompson tires that I've got on here. So I'm always wearing hiking boots. Even when I'm in a suit and tie at a very official event, I'm wearing hiking boots because I like to be ready for everything. Sure, I'm not as fast as someone wearing sneakers and not carrying all this junk in his pockets, but I bet I can get places and stay there longer than people who like to travel as light as they possibly can. I didn't build it to be a competition rig. I built it to be my dream truck in real life because this is what I wish I could drive. I just don't have the money for it yet. Let's get the camera closer and look at all the things that I actually did to it. So I love the way he sits. I love the way he rides. I love the way it crawls. I just have grown to love everything about this truck. Now, I'm not done upgrading it. In fact, I have upgrades that I'm going to put on, but I want to do this video because this truck has been riding like this for quite a long time. So let's start at the back and we'll work our way forwards because at the front is where most of the stuff has been done. Back here, probably the only sticker that I've added, Scout. He's got a name. Look at that. It's a Jeep thing. Calm down, Toyota people. We're not taking the tent off. Forget it. I am willing to put as many upgrades as I have to put on the bottom to be able to keep the tent because I just love the overlanding look. If you didn't know, you can actually take these off. They might be useful. I tried them once. I'm not sure they actually made a difference. So my body is quite scratched up, but because it's the soft Lexan body that you get on a Gladiator, you can't really see the scratches until the light shines on it just right. Like this, it just looks pretty good. So I had to trim the fenders to get around these Mickey Thompson tires because they're huge. And when you add more flex, they still kind of rub sometimes. In fact, I'm not sure that they're even. I think this side specifically needs a little more trimming. So we'll talk about the tires because these are on the back too. These are Proline Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X tires. They're branded. They're made by Proline. And they come on these rims. These ones, if you get a Proline trencher, everyone complains about the plastic rims. These ones have an advantage in the plastic rim department because it gives you 2 millimeters extra track width. So I'm sitting 4 millimeters wider than the stock axles. That helps side hilling. And I think that the tires themselves have really stiff sidewalls and they're really flat. Like if you look at a Proline trencher, they're very round in profile. These are very flat. It really helps your side hilling ability with these tires. I mean, just look at it dance like that. And then on the back, underneath, we can get a really good look at this. I have these flex extensions. Okay, I made these myself out of plastic from a dishwasher. I have a video on my channel on how to make these if you want. And I also have moved, this is where the shock mounts stock. Right now there's a rock light mounted to that because I like to drive at night and I'm not afraid of the dark. And I've moved them down, not even to this hole, but to this forward hole, which when you do that, the truck sits, if I can get it to sit just right, it sits about there. And that's okay. It looks kind of, jacked up Jeepish, but I didn't like the monster truck look. And I tried many different iterations of moving that and then raising the body mounts. I even raised the body up and flipped the bumper mounts like some people said to do, but I didn't like the way it looked like it was just like doing this the whole time. Like, so putting the flex extensions on lets the truck settle down and be normal height. In fact, mine kind of sits lower than normal shock ride height, but I have more flex because I have all the suspension travel that it normally has, and then you have all the suspension travel that this provides. You see the way it flips like that? Look under here. You see the way it flips and it lets it travel up like that? That helps you a lot when you're high centering, because now instead of just going to here and then, oh, we can't reach the ground, it can drop further, and you get it. You need an object narrower than this to be able to high center this. And even then, it's going to lean forwards because I have more weight on the front axle. So that's a suspension modification. Gives us an awesome amount of flex, I think. See how many fingers I can get. I have pretty big hands. I wear extra large gloves. Although I don't have, massive hands, but I can fit 3 fingers under there. That's a lot of flex. It really helps it on technical obstacles, okay? And so we have rock lights that a friend soldered these for me. Then I just glued them to black pieces of plastic, drilled holes in the black pieces of plastic, and bolted them to these stock shock mounts. So moving forwards, pretty much all of this is stock. I don't have added links. You don't really need them. I still have the stock motor. It's kind of screaming. It's louder than newer stock motors because I've been running these huge tires and all this brass weight on here for so long. I've also, since we're moving our way from back to front, the ESC and receiver has been moved to the rear. This is because this weighs next to nothing and the battery is quite a bit heavier than the ESC, so it helps move your balance forwards. This is facilitated by having a servo that comes with a longer cord. Almost all of the aftermarket servos, that at least every single one that I've seen, is going to come with these longer cord. Whether you even get an Emax or you get a Reefs or you get an EcoPower, and having a longer cord means you can move it back there, because the stock servo cord is too short. Unless you want to cut it and try and solder all those wires, I don't know if I would recommend doing that on a servo. Lights, it's easy enough. The servo, that's kind of an iffy proposition. But when you get your upgrade servos, this is where this can move. And that is a good, if we're going for a budget, which this is a budget build, a servo is probably the #1 thing to be putting on there. And we'll get to that when we get a little bit further forwards. But so this is moved back. You have extension wires for our headlights. We have wires for our rock lights. Then we have our servo plugged in to the ESC in the back. And the battery cord is plenty long enough, even on a stock battery. I know this one's upgraded, but it's long enough to plug in up here. In fact, we'll plug it in. I don't know if our rock lights... Something is wrong with my rock lights, actually. I think I've driven through enough water that we've got some rust going on. That or my solder joints in here are coming loose, but something is up with that. So moving forwards, we have the battery. The stock battery worked for a long time, but after so many cycles of running it dead, bringing it back, running it dead, bringing it back, running it dead, bringing it back, and drawing all the power with these big tires on there, it was the lifetime of the battery, how long it would go, was really getting short. So I have an upgraded EcoPower Trail 450 mAh battery on there. That's doing really good right now. Haven't had it for very long, but I really like it. So as we move forwards, I think I'm right about stock mount height. I'm not sure. I have moved it so many times, I don't know anymore. I wanted it to sit flat, and ride right. And then I wanted the bumper, because the bumper comes on these step down things. So, you know what? I think I did raise the body some. And then I trimmed this just a little bit. I see guys trimming them all the way up into the grill. Oh my goodness, we have a headlight coming out. We'll get to that in a second. I see guys trimming those all the way up into the grill, and I didn't like that. So I trimmed it just a little bit because there's like a lip on there that doesn't... There's just like a lip around the edge of the body. And then I made these bumper mounts. It's really easy. It's 3 holes in a piece of plastic. And then I put 2 screws in from the back over here. I don't know if we can get in there and see that. So you got 2 screws here, 1 screw that goes into the bumper. It's pretty solid. And then now we're coming to we got to talk about the servo at this point. So the bumper, I moved it so far back and so high up that it was hitting the servo horn. So I just went ahead and trimmed it because I want the servo to have all the room it can. And another reason for mounting the bumper like this, not just to get the bumper higher and get it to sit just right. So if you try and make your own mounts, my bumper is literally just sitting if you take your bumper mounts off and just hold the bumper up to the front of the frame rails. That's where I've got mine mounted. And I love it there because then it moves the bumper mounts outside of the frame, which look at all the room that I have for that servo to move. And it even, we'll go to the back here. I just took the stock strap off the back and I moved it to the front for the battery. This is the ESC tray, and that's where the battery sits now. So I actually trimmed out this tray. You can see I cut in the sides and came back because the wires coming from the back of this servo were kind of hitting the tray and it was stopping my downward motion. I wanted it to sit lower and I was stuck literally up here. But once I remove those, now we can settle in and we can do that, which is real nice. This is for when I have my extra servo back here. I have the stock servo. I'll mount it to here, and run a string through it down to here so that when you turn the servo in different directions, it will pull the front end down so you can climb a hill. Again, I have a whole video about this on the channel if you go look for it. And the servo is the EcoPower WP173 X24. It's the scx24 servo, and it's the full metal one. So when we were buying the parts, we walked into a hobby shop, a big chain hobby shop actually, and it wasn't even in my town because we were in Missouri, and I'm fiddling with this. Get back on there, you. I knew what I wanted because I'd seen so many people upgrading these. I wanted brass weights and I wanted a servo. And I was going to buy the cheaper EcoPower servo because, you know, the plastic one's only like 20 bucks. This one was $55. That's what I paid for it. And you probably get it like $5 cheaper if you get it online. And it's all metal. And the metal servo weighed as much more than the plastic EcoPower servo. It weighs the same amount more than all of this brass weighed. And it was actually the same cost because you're looking at, you know, upgrading 30 bucks. Well, I got about 30 bucks in brass on this front axle because we have brass steering knuckles and we have a brass differential cover by Hot Racing. I will say the machining is very nice and they look very quality. I'll say that. But I also will say that I think you can get cheaper brass on Amazon that actually is a little bit heavier. So that's probably a better way to go with it. But when we're looking at, I got $30 in brass that I wanted to mount. And then I was going to buy a $20 servo to help, you know, with the big tires and turning because I was already having times where you'd be coming down a hill into a rock face and you try and turn and the servo just didn't have the guts to do it. So I wanted a servo, but this cost the same amount more as buying the brass and it added the same amount of weight. So I just decided to do it. Going with a $50 servo and another $30 in brass. I think by the time we left and spending $27 on the tires, I have about, that looks terrible. I have about $130 into the upgrades on this truck, and I paid $100 for it on sale. I think that's not bad for a budget build. Actually, maybe it's $140. I don't think I'm counting the battery, and that was like another $15. And the servo, let's talk about the EcoPower servo. It is amazing. It's very quiet. The stock servos have a whine, like people in the same room as me were constantly complaining that I was driving it. Now they just complain when I start driving over piles of clean clothes because you can just, you know, go up whatever you want. There's a little bit of a ring, but it's also very, 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 very fast. Look at the way the tires shake when you do that. I have had no need for more servo power. Like, I've been driving up between two rocks and I'll just turn and it'll fling a rock and literally dig it out of the trail. So I love the servo so much. That's why you can see I have designed my truck so that no matter what happens, we have clearanced it around this servo. It's also direct mount. So when you pay $55, you get a metal servo horn, which looks pretty good. I got some rust in there because I'm not just a rock crawler. I'm more of an overlander. I drive mine through water a lot, okay? And it is waterproof as well. Don't use it like a submarine is what everyone says about everything in the RC industry, but it is waterproof. And it directly mounts. Instead of having a mount that then you bolt the servo to. So, I mean, think about this. We need steering. So we mount steering linkage to the steering, and then we mount a horn to the steering linkage, and then we mount the horn to the servo, and then the servo is mounted to a mount, and then the mount is mounted to the axle. That's all complicated. I mean, we know what this thing's going to go in. We know what it's going to be attached to. Why can't we just make the servo directly mount to it? That's what this is. I love it. It makes my OCD feel happy. Okay? Just in case you're wondering how strong an EcoPower servo is, it's strong enough to do that. It will bend the stock steering linkage into a banana. And let's see, what else do we have here? On the front axle, we also, when I put the hot racing steering linkage on, we started to lose some turning angles. So I took a razor blade, literally just a razor blade, use a hobby knife if you want, and I trimmed this, and then you should adjust your endpoints, your dual rate on the stock remote to make sure you're not turning too far. Because if you're turning too far, you're just forcing your servo into the wall that is the end of the steering, and it's going to wear it out faster. Mine turns so far that I'm actually rubbing on the shocks back there. You see, ooh, you see I'm rubbing on the shocks? So that's about as much turning angle as I can get unless I get some rims or some axles that push this out even further. I only have one brass diff cover. I had it originally on the back, and I didn't feel like it was really helping anything back there. More weight up front is better. It's very balanced towards the front. Then moving upwards, we have the fenders, which are, of course, cut. They come out and they go down on a stock one. I wanted them to look like this flat steel fender style, and I have done so much cliff diving that mine has broken off repeatedly, so I actually have it super glued. Multiple beads of super glue in here, and then I even had to do a bead of super glue across the top, and that has held so far. And the headlights. I moved the headlights myself. The headlights come mounted in here. Now I have recovery points in there. The headlights, which conveniently, get off there. Velcro's still pretty good. Conveniently, I have apparently come unglued on one side. But what I did was, you just open this up. Oh, look, light. And this is silver paint on the inside of a plastic body, if you didn't know how that works. So I took an X-Acto knife and I scraped away the paint until this is clear. So what we have is a disc and then a ring. So we took a disc and we drilled a hole through it, exactly the size of the LED, and it's hot glued in from the back. That also helps protect the connections. And then this is a ring that I kind of chamfered with the knife a little bit to make a headlight housing. And then that just glues like so into the back of the grill on the Gladiator. So that's, completely free if you want to do that. You can also buy like a $10 mount if you want to do it, but nevertheless, this is Scout in all of his glory, and I love this truck so much, and I want to do this because this has been where he's been sitting for quite a while, and I'm very happy with how it drives. But of course, it's a Jeep thing. We have to keep upgrading it. I have some upgrade axles, a different servo. Not that I'm unhappy with this one, but my new axles won't mount this servo, unfortunately. There'll be a video on that, and we're going to see how much more we can get. So this is a budget build, and now he's going to become not so much a budget build, but more of a dream build. I'm thinking we need shocks because it doesn't quite sit right. Maybe we wouldn't need the flex extensions if we had longer shocks, or maybe we can leave them mounted down there, but tighten them so they don't actually unlock. I'm not sure. We're going to see where it goes. I hope you enjoyed. Anyways, Scout's going to be probably a little bit different next time you see him, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you will go out and enjoy some old paths yourselves. Thanks for watching, guys. You ready? I gotta make that hook latch on better. Let's undo this. You think you can come down this hill? Okay.
Well, let's find out.
Oh, that's steep. Careful. Careful.
Oh!
You got it? Oh no!
Oh, yes!
Oh! She does it! Yes! Wasn't quite as composed as the Gladiator. But the Bronco's always been a little bit on the wild side, I guess.